Well, for more on this story, I'm joined live now by Patrick Hayes. He's a reporter for online magazine Spiked and joining us there in London. Thanks very much indeed, Patrick, for being with us. So Colonel Gaddafi is finally buried, but it took the interim government 5 days to decide what to do with his body. Does that tell us anything about the unity of the NTC at the moment?
Well, I think one of the most striking things from the NTC that we must remember from the start is that this isn't a democratically elected body. In fact, this isn't really a body that emerged through a political struggle of the people in Libya. It's instead very much an association of cronies, former cronies of Gaddafi, and people who have effectively been cherry-picked by Western leaders to play these roles. So they actually don't have that much legitimacy in the eyes of the Libyan people at the moment. And I think that is going to be problematic going forward.
But going forward, sorry to interrupt, just to interrupt, going forward, the NTC, of course, is an interim transitional government leading to elections in about 8 months. So we will see a democratically elected government eventually in Libya, won't we?
Well, I hope so. But the problem that we have here is that due to Western interference, due to the interference of Sarkozy, Cameron, Obama, for purposes, I would say, of more moral grandstanding than anything else, what you had was them basically stepping in and bombing a path for the Transitional Council to effectively follow so they could oust Gaddafi. And when you have that situation where Western leaders come in and effectively take the democratic initiative from the Libyan people, then you effectively hinder what is necessarily an organic process for the establishment of leadership and people who actually legitimately represent the Libyan people. So I think Western interference has really hindered this process. I think it's a positive thing that we will now be moving towards elections, but I think that could have happened otherwise. I think one of the things that's really problematic at the moment is the fact that you now have Cameron, Obama, Sarkozy championing this as one of their achievements, the eradication of Gaddafi, which I really don't think, they were never clear on that from the start. And I think...
Sorry to interrupt, but isn't NATO's position now vindicated by the fact that the NTC has now said they don't want NATO to leave? NATO says it's going to leave by the end of the month, on October the 31st, but the Transitional Council has said, no, we want you to stay on. Is that not for a very good reason?
Well, I think one, as I said, the Transitional Council broadly have been cherry-picked by NATO. On the day that Gaddafi was captured, the Prime Minister was saying that he was on the phone all the time to the ICC and to various kind of legal cronies as well. These are people that are effectively the puppets of the West that have been put in there because they are kind of safe representatives, because the West fears, what might actually happen if the Libyan people actually try and take the democratic initiative for themselves. And I think that in itself is very problematic.
Should the West be concerned about the fact that Libya's interim leader has actually promised a new legal system based on Sharia law? We've witnessed a historic election in neighbouring Tunisia, of course, where an Islamist party has actually now claimed victory. That move to a Sharia law government, is that worrying to the West? Is that what the West wanted?
I think in some ways it kind of plays to some of the anxieties on the West. I think it says much more about Western leaders' fear of Islam and the rise of Islam in these countries than it actually does about a political reality in Libya. Libya has historically has a very moderate form of Islam, and I think that, the kind of the bogeyman of the Islamic extremists is very much being used by Western leaders as a way of effectively scaremongering, saying they can't do it for themselves, or if we pull out too quickly, then what we might get is this kind of chaos, or we might get some kind of Islamic dictatorship. And I think effectively the NTC now has become quite dependent upon Western leaders for guidance, and I think that's really kind of problematic in many ways, because again they're not actually genuinely representing the Libyan people and their particular interests. They're orientated instead towards the West and their interests.
Patrick, always interesting to hear your point of view. Patrick Hayes joining us live there from London, from the online magazine Spiked. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.